Have you noticed it? That slow, quiet change? You used to enjoy the buzz of a room, the familiar chatter at family gatherings, those long phone calls that turned into laughter-filled hours. But lately, you'd rather sit with your thoughts. Choose the silence. Pick peace over people. Maybe you've caught yourself making excuses, "I'm just tired today," or "maybe next time." But deep down, it's not about being tired, is it? It's something else. Something harder to explain. And here's the thing. You're not imagining it. You're not broken. You're not becoming bitter. You're evolving. You see, as we grow older, something within us begins to shift. And it's not just physical, it's psychological. You start choosing stillness over small talk. Depth over drama. Solitude over surface-level connection. And yet, no one really talks about it. People might say, "She's pulling away," or "He's not as social as he used to be." But they don't see what's really going on beneath the surface. They don't understand the quiet wisdom that comes with age. The kind of wisdom that tells you, not every conversation is worth having, not every relationship is meant to last forever, and not every silence needs to be filled. That's what this video is all about. Because the truth is, there are 6 powerful, and surprisingly normal, psychological reasons why you might start avoiding people more as you age, and once you understand them, you'll realize. It's not a weakness. It's growth. It's not loneliness. It's clarity. So, stay with me. Because by the end of this video, you'll see these changes not as a loss, but as a natural, meaningful part of your journey. And maybe, just maybe, it'll give you the peace of mind you've been searching for. If you've ever caught yourself drifting away from the crowd, and felt unsure about it, comment, "I get it," below. You're not alone. You're in good company here. And if you're ready to honor this new chapter of your life with wisdom and grace, subscribe to Elderly Wisdom Guide, where we speak openly, honestly, and lovingly about what it really means to grow older. Now, let's take a closer look at what's really happening behind that quiet pull toward solitude. And why it might just be the healthiest thing you've ever done. Let's start with something simple, but powerful. Energy. Not the kind you get from a cup of coffee. I'm talking about emotional energy. Mental stamina. The kind that lets you listen patiently, smile politely, and stay engaged in conversations that don't really mean much. Now picture this. You're at a family gathering. The room is full of people you care about, but after just a short while, your mind starts to drift. The noise feels louder than it used to. The conversations seem repetitive. You smile, nod, laugh at the right times, but deep down, you feel your energy slipping away. You weren't always like this. You used to enjoy these moments. But now? Even something as small as chit-chat can feel exhausting. That's not just in your head. There's a real reason behind it. You see, as we age, the brain begins to prioritize where it spends its limited energy. It becomes more selective. Instead of casting your net wide, trying to please everyone, show up everywhere, be part of every social event, your mind starts asking, what's really worth my time? Who do I truly feel connected to? It's like your inner compass begins to shift. And suddenly, meaningless small talk feels like a burden. Surface-level conversations don't spark anything in you anymore. What used to be fun now feels like work. But here's the important part, this doesn't mean you're becoming antisocial. It doesn't mean you're growing cold. In fact, it means quite the opposite. It means you've grown wise enough to protect your peace. You've learned that your time, and your emotional energy, are sacred. You're no longer willing to spend them on conversations that don't nourish your soul. And yet, people may not understand this change. They might say you're withdrawing. That you're not as fun. That you're not like you used to be. But the truth is, you're simply tired of noise that doesn't bring meaning. And that's okay. So, here's what I want you to take away from this. Honor your energy limits. Don't force yourself into social spaces that leave you drained. Don't feel guilty for skipping the call, the dinner, or the visit, especially when your spirit is telling you that what you really need is rest. Instead, choose people who make you feel seen. Conversations that lift your heart. Moments that feel real. Because it's not about having less energy, it's about using it where it matters most. And this leads us perfectly into the next reason. A deeper, more personal shift, where your values begin to change, often without you even realizing it. Have you ever sat through a conversation and thought to yourself, this just doesn't matter to me anymore? Maybe it was about gossip in the neighborhood, the latest drama between people you barely know, or small complaints that, once upon a time, you might have joined in on. But now? You feel a kind of distance. Not judgmental. Just quiet. Detached. Because you've changed. This is what psychologists call socio-emotional selectivity. It's a natural psychological shift that happens as we age. What it means is this: as time begins to feel more precious, you start to focus on what truly matters. You seek emotional meaning over social quantity. You let go of surface-level connections and turn inward, choosing fewer, but deeper, relationships. It's not about becoming isolated. It's about becoming intentional. You begin to care more about who makes you feel safe, who listens without judgment, who sits with you in silence and still feels close. Those are the connections you now value. And yes, to the outside world, it might seem like you're pulling away. But in truth, you're pulling inward. Toward peace. Toward clarity. Toward emotional richness. You've learned that life isn't about impressing people or keeping up appearances. It's about living truthfully, with yourself and with others. And here's a gentle reminder: you don't need to apologize for that. You don't have to keep up dozens of social ties out of guilt or habit. You don't have to explain why you'd rather have one meaningful conversation than 10 shallow ones. So, allow yourself to embrace this shift. Nurture the relationships that feel good in your soul. Let go of the ones that no longer align with who you are. Because you're not becoming distant, you're becoming deliberate. And as your values evolve, so does something else. Not just what you care about, but what you can no longer tolerate. Let's talk about that next. Because as you grow older, your tolerance for emotional drama starts to fade fast. Let me ask you something. Have you ever let a call go to voicemail, not because you were busy, but because you already knew how that conversation was going to make you feel? Maybe it's that old friend who always complains, who turns every talk into a list of problems, who never seems to bring light into your life. Only wait. There was a time you'd listen. You'd nod, sympathize, try to help. But now? You just don't have the energy for it anymore. And that's not cruelty. It's not coldness. It's self-preservation. As we age, our brains begin to respond differently to emotional stress. The part of your brain called the amygdala, which deals with fear, tension, and conflict, starts to soften its response to negative stimuli. What that means is, you don't get pulled into drama the way you used to. Your mind begins craving something simpler, steadier, more peaceful. And so, your tolerance for chaos, emotional messiness, unresolved tension, or constant negativity, naturally starts to fade. You no longer want to argue. You no longer feel the need to defend your views or fix someone else's bad mood. You just want peace. But here's the thing, others might misread that. They might think you're growing indifferent. That you don't care anymore. That you're shutting down. But that's not it at all. What's really happening is this. You've learned the value of your own emotional space. You've been through enough to know that not every fire is yours to put out, and not every storm is worth stepping into. And that is not selfish. That is wisdom. So, if there are relationships in your life that constantly leave you feeling drained, bitter, or unsettled, it's okay to walk away. Not with resentment. Not with anger. Just with quiet acceptance that your peace is worth protecting. Choose the people who bring calm. Who speak gently. Who meet you with grace, not conflict. Because at this stage in life, emotional peace isn't just a luxury, it's a necessity. And speaking of emotional health, let's take a look at how your past experiences, the joys, the losses, the lessons, are now shaping who you allow into your world, and who you gently keep at a distance. You know, after living through decades of friendships, family ties, heartbreaks, and reconciliations, something happens. You start to see patterns. You recognize who brings light into a room, and who quietly dims it. You can tell, almost instantly, who listens with their heart, and who just waits for their turn to speak. You no longer need years to figure people out. A few conversations, a few subtle signs, and you just know. That's the gift of life experience. You've loved. You've been let down. You've forgiven. You've grown. And through it all, you've developed something powerful, emotional clarity. The ability to spot red flags. To feel the energy someone brings. To know whether they're adding peace to your life, or pulling from it. Psychologists call this emotional maturity, the stage where we begin forming stronger personal boundaries, and where we start living more in tune with what feels right. It doesn't mean you dislike people. It just means you no longer carry what isn't yours. You no longer feel obligated to entertain toxic behavior, even if it comes dressed as family. And that can be hard. Because sometimes, the people you need to distance yourself from, are the ones others expect you to stay close to. A sibling. A childhood friend. Even a grown child who doesn't see the toll their words take on you. And when you begin to step back, some may take it personally. They may feel excluded, confused, even hurt. But what they don't always realize is this: you're not shutting people out. You're curating your emotional space. You're creating room for the peace you've earned. You're choosing presence over pressure. And most of all, you're choosing truth, your truth, over obligation. So, here's what I'd gently remind you: trust your instincts. If someone consistently brings heaviness into your life, it's okay to let them drift. If a relationship no longer aligns with who you are today, it's okay to release it with love. Because life is far too short, and far too sacred, for energy that doesn't feel safe, real, or kind. But here's something important to understand. Sometimes, avoiding people isn't even something you decide to do. Sometimes, it just happens, quietly, unconsciously, because your mind is trying to protect you from something deeper. Have you ever paused before speaking? Not because you didn't know what to say, but because you already knew they wouldn't understand? You avoid certain conversations now. Not out of bitterness, but exhaustion. You're tired of having to explain yourself. Tired of feeling like your words float past people who don't really hear them. Tired of being the one who remembers things that others seem to forget, or never understood to begin with. And so, instead of pushing, you pull back. Quietly. Gently. Even without realizing it. You start saying less. Sharing less. Not because you don't want connection, but because connection, without understanding, can feel lonelier than being alone. This happens to so many older adults. Especially in today's fast-changing world. The truth is, research has shown that many seniors begin to feel socially misunderstood. It's not always loud or dramatic, it's often subtle. A growing sense that people don't really get where you're coming from anymore. That your values, your pace, your way of seeing the world, feels outdated to others. And that gap, that quiet disconnection, can turn into something deeper, a kind of social anxiety. Not fear in the traditional sense, but a protective hesitation. Because every time you speak and feel unseen, every time you try to share and feel brushed aside, something in you closes just a little more. So, when others say, "You've changed," or "Why don't you talk like you used to?" what they don't see is that you tried. You tried for years. And now, you're choosing peace over proving. But here's what I want you to know: you still deserve to be heard. You still carry wisdom that matters. And there are people who want to hear it, who need to hear it. So, seek out those spaces. Whether it's a small group, a trusted friend, or even a quiet corner of your community where respect flows naturally. Surround yourself with those who listen. Those who value the life you've lived, not overlook it. Because when you speak from experience, your words are gold. But only those with open hearts will know how to hold it. And now, we arrive at perhaps the most personal, most profound reason of all. The reason that often goes unspoken, even in our own minds. You begin to pull away from others. Because part of you is looking inward. You find yourself sitting alone more often, not from sadness, but reflection. You seek silence over small talk, stillness over stimulation. And in those quiet moments, you start to ask deeper questions. Not just, who do I want around me? But, what really matters now? As we age, the reality of life's fragility becomes clearer. You begin to feel time differently. Not just as hours or days, but as meaning. You start to weigh your moments carefully. Choosing peace over pressure, stillness over noise. And that's not loneliness. It's not giving up. It's arrival. You're arriving at a place where the soul wants to breathe. Where you're less concerned with being everywhere, and more focused on being here, fully, gently, peacefully. Psychologically, this is a natural shift. The aging brain begins to prioritize introspection and emotional clarity. It's part of what makes later life so rich, so sacred, so transformative. Yet people often misunderstand this too. They see you sitting alone and assume you're lonely. They notice your quietness and mistake it for sadness. But in truth, you're in one of the most meaningful stages of life. You're looking inward, not out of fear, but out of understanding. You've lived. You've learned. And now, you're listening to your own heart more than the noise around you. So, if you find yourself wanting more quiet days, more mornings spent watching the sun rise, not rushing anywhere, more time with your thoughts and fewer interruptions, honor that. Because in that silence, something beautiful happens: healing, clarity, and even joy. It's in those quiet spaces that life speaks the loudest. And as we reflect on all 6 of these changes, remember, pulling away from people isn't always a problem. Sometimes, it's just the beginning of a deeper connection with yourself. It can feel strange sometimes, can't it? To notice how you've slowly pulled back from people you once laughed with, cried with, built history with. To feel that subtle distance between who you were, and who you are now. You might even ask yourself, why don't I enjoy these gatherings like I used to? Why do I feel more at peace alone than surrounded by people I once cared for? And sometimes, the answers aren't clear. There's a quiet sadness to it, this drifting. Not because something's wrong, but because something's changing. And that change can stir emotions you didn't expect. A twinge of guilt for not calling someone back. A moment of confusion when you no longer relate to a lifelong friend. A wave of nostalgia for days when your circle felt full and familiar. But here's the truth that few say out loud: this isn't a flaw. This is evolution. Emotional evolution. You are not breaking away, you are growing inward. You're starting to understand what your heart truly needs. Not what it once accepted, but what it now requires. And when you frame it through that lens, It stops feeling like loss, and starts feeling like return. A return to your own values. Your own rhythms. Your own peace. This isn't about being afraid of people. It's about no longer sacrificing your peace to maintain relationships that no longer nourish you. So instead of fearing isolation, consider this. Maybe this season of your life isn't about adding more people, more plans, more noise. Maybe it's about refining. Refining your energy. Refining your boundaries. Refining the kind of love and connection you allow in. Think of it this way: you've spent decades caring for others. Showing up. Making space. Keeping peace. Now, it's okay to choose you. So here's something simple you can do, right now. Take a quiet moment. Close your eyes. Think about the people currently in your life. Who brings you calm just by being near? Who truly listens when you speak, not just hears, but understands? Who leaves you feeling grounded after a conversation, and who leaves you feeling drained? Let those answers guide you. Because it's not too late to shift. It's not too late to say, I need more peace. I need different energy. I need something softer now. And that's not selfish. That's wisdom. That's you honoring the journey you've walked and the person you've become. So, if you've noticed yourself avoiding people more lately, let me tell you this: you are not fading. You are deepening. You're not disappearing. You're distilling your life down to its most meaningful parts. And what a beautiful, brave thing that is. Because this season you're in, it isn't about endings. It's about essence. Letting go of the noise. Holding tight to what matters. And making space for what fills your spirit instead of empties it. You've earned that. And in this quiet turning inward, you might just find more joy, more clarity, and more connection than you ever imagined. Not with the world outside, but with the world within. So, let's take a quiet moment to bring everything together. We explored 6 powerful, deeply human reasons why you might find yourself avoiding people more as you age, and why it's not just normal, but a sign of growth. First, you're conserving your energy, no longer spending it on small talk or social obligations that leave you drained. Second, your values are shifting. What once felt important now feels trivial, and that's because your heart is steering you toward what truly matters. Third, you've developed a low tolerance for conflict or drama. Peace has become a higher priority than pleasing everyone. Fourth, your life experience has made you more selective. You've earned the right to choose who gets your time and presence. Fifth, there's sometimes a subtle fear of being misunderstood. When culture changes quickly, it's easy to feel left behind, and so, you pull back to protect your emotional space. And finally, you're facing the quiet awareness of mortality, and with it, a desire for stillness, for peace, for reflection. Now let me ask you something simple but important. Have you noticed yourself pulling back socially, or maybe noticed a loved one doing the same? Which of these 6 reasons really hit home for you? Was it the desire for peace? The feeling of being misunderstood? The quiet fatigue from interactions that no longer serve your spirit? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your voice matters here. This is a space where your story, your feelings, and your reflections are welcomed and honored. And if this video made you feel seen, if it helped you understand yourself or a loved one a little better, I invite you to subscribe to Elderly Wisdom Guide. This channel is here for you, for your heart, your journey, and the unspoken truths of aging that too often go unheard. We're not just talking about health. We're talking about humanity. About the emotional, psychological, and even spiritual layers that come with growing older. We do it with compassion. With depth. And always with respect. So if that resonates with you, stick around. Join us. And from the bottom of my heart, thank you for spending this time with us. Thank you for choosing reflection over distraction. Depth over noise. Wisdom over worry. Stay wise. Stay peaceful. And remember, aging isn't just about growing older, it's about growing deeper. We'll see you in the next video.